Good evening, respected heads, respected teachers, and educators from across the globe. So, after a long time, we are joining the Ed Talk series, Pose the Stuff. So, a very warm welcome to today's thought provoking session on leveraging technology and data for success in schools. In a world swept up by the fourth industrial revolution, a term coined by Klaus Schwab and brought alive in schools by Sir Anthony Seldon, we find ourselves in the brink of an educational transformation. As educators, we are no longer just transmitters of content, we are now data interpreters, digital architects, and learning designers. Today, data is the new oil, but in schools, it's more than that. It's a mirror. It reflects where we are and reveals where we must go. And when combined with emerging technologies like AI, gamification, and advanced analytics, it becomes the GPS guiding us towards academic excellence, operational efficiency, and student centric growth. To help us decode this transformation, we are honored to have with us Ms. Kavita Sanghvi, a national awardee who holds a master's in physics, master's in education, master's in philosophy of education, certificate in advanced course in educational leadership from Harvard University. She presently heads the very famous and a legacy school SVKM's Chhatrapati Narsi Memorial School in Mumbai. She is a national awardee from the President of India in the year 2022. She is Teach SDGs Ambassador, Climate Action Ambassador, and Scientix Ambassador for India. In May 2023, she was inducted by the Ministry of India for the National Mission for Mentoring NMM. She received the prestigious De Rossi Award from the Council for the Indian School Certificate Examination, CISC Board. She has recently also co-authored Cambridge IGCSE Physics Exam Preparation and Practice with Digital Access. Someone who's doing research very deeply with Mumbai University and be a doctorate soon, adding a prefix DR, it's just aside her name, and whose work I have always personally admired, whose thoughts I have always admired, and being at this juncture, at this age of the chair, who's still on ground level, she's an inspiration for young educators like us to do so much more to the education fraternity. So let us dive deep with her, not just into the what but the how of using tech and data to reimagine our schools. Welcome, Ms. Sanghvi, to our Ed Talk show. And I would just, ask you to give your opening remarks, post which we had received n number of questions from so many educators. So the format will be, ma'am will be sharing lot of research, lot of contents on a question answer format, wherein I will be placing a question each to ma'am of different journeys, no overlapping happening, and ma'am will be sharing her thoughts, her wisdom, and her work accordingly. So over to you, Ms. Sanghvi, to give your opening remarks on such a hot trending topic nowadays. Over to you, ma'am.
So thank you so much. And honestly, thank you to all the people out here for investing time into this. So we all know that data is a new king. And honestly, without data, without analyzing data, we would not know how to move forward. So the data analysis helps me to take decision making in my own school, because I run a school of nearly 3,000 students. So if I want to implement something, or I want to monitor something, or I want to know that what is the next step forward to making sure that this pedagogy or this strategy or my SOP is really functioning or needs a revamp, that only data can tell me. So I'm used to collecting data from all my stakeholders and then using it back to make sure that there are some kind of different changes to it.
Thank you very much, ma'am. So we have the very first question. It's always said that schools today are like living organisms. We have so much of departments, say academic performance, the housekeeping, the resource use, the parent feedback, and the admin processes, all pulse with data. But the real magic lies in how do we connect these dots? So, ma'am, in your experience, how can schools systematically collect and analyze data across various departments, be it academics, admin, PAs, housekeeping, to drive meaningful improvements? Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, so let me tell you, let's begin with the real backbone of every school. I know they talk at the teachers, but it's actually the admin. So your admin is the one who's actually connecting with every single department. So in my admin, I have forms ready for every single SOP. I first have created SOPs. In that SOPs, I've created sort of rubrics and checklist. And in that, I have collected some data parameters. So for example, when I talk of admissions, anybody who comes to take admissions in a school has to fill in a feedback form. So the feedback form is something that I analyze what was not done well, what was not done well in my admission form. When it comes to, again, human resources, when we have a teacher come joining in, then what kind of induction have I done with my teachers? Post induction, I can take a response and feedback from my new teachers. What went well, what did not go well, what have they understood or not understood in the school philosophy. Also, exit interview for every teacher who's moving out. So that way also gets me an understanding, have they moved out because they are going somewhere else, or it is because there is a concern in my school. There's some sort of politics being played in my school. What is happening across? Now, when it comes to vendors, in my vendors also, when they approach, every vendor has to again give me a feedback form. So it comes into whether they have got a good response when they entered, or did a security check their ID cards when they entered, were they directed properly to the respective offices. All this is a proper feedback that they have to give me. And at the end of each term, we have 2 terms. End of each terms, everything gets analyzed, and the report is sent to me. We also have a team. So I call it the academic team. So the academic team, along with the non-teaching team also, we come together and we evaluate these results. So once the data evaluation is done, okay, then after that, I send the report to everybody in the school and to the management. So there's a transparency between all of them that this factor, which went well, does not go well. So this is one, the admin part. When it comes to teaching, then I take a feedback from my parents every term. The parents are to pull a feedback from academics, non-academic, every single thing. Teachers, students fill on basically the teaching that is happening inside the classrooms. And when it comes to parents, as I already spoke about parents, I spoke about students, and also teachers will give a feedback for the entire support that they receive from the school, and they will also give a feedback on the head of the school. So for example, I put in a feedback for my own self. Were they able to approach me? Was I approachable to them throughout the year? How many kind of teacher trainings did I offer them across? So when I get a feedback from my own self, I know where I stand too. So this is what we do in our school, and that every single system is monitored, data is collected, there's a proper rubric, there's proper checklist, and then it is evaluated, and then there's a proper data representation across the whole school.
Okay. Yes, well said, ma'am. Because this vendor feedback form is something new for me, what I've been hearing. And also exit interviews is something we should genuinely get to know what the actual reason is. And especially the feedback during the admission form itself, that what further improvements this generally gives the parents a check that when a school is so very particular with the admission form design, then what the pedagogical delivery of the school will be. So well said, ma'am. So next part of the question coming to, as we all often say from the early years, there's a differentiated learning that every child is unique. Guy Claxton said that, people should know and we should become better at becoming better each and every day. Learning power is something which is getting new coined in today's time and spoken about. So how can schools practically use the students' performances and behavioral data to design different target interventions and bridge the learning gaps across different genre, variety of students, what we get at your school? So if you can share some specific examples from your own leadership practice, any research, any such reports, any such things or action work, what you have been doing in order to per se answer this question, ma'am.
Okay, so first let me tell you, I'll share with you right now some particular researches right now which I have done. So I recently conducted a research on using artificial intelligence in my classrooms. So I wanted to understand what is the impact of AI in my classrooms. So one entire week, I had my students using AI tools. My teachers taught through AI tools. And then afterwards, see out here, the purpose was to understand what is the impact of AI on student engagement, personalized learning, and academic progress. Okay. Now, there was an input. The input was a 1-week initiative and also an event where they could showcase the learning to their respective parents and peers and students. What is the process? We had a lot of learning plans, activities, lesson plans designed. We had worksheets with collaborative activities between students, even teacher intervention where it was required, and what is a variety of AI tools. Output, I measure the engagement, the attendance, the presentation, and the academic progress. I use a mixed method study. That means I evaluated 832 secondary students. So the number is quite large, from 7 to 10 standard. Quantitative data, I also use qualitative data. That means I interviewed my teachers and the rest was all through that. So now let's see the quantitative data. I took the pre-test, that was a unit test mark. And afterward doing AI tool, I took another test. So pre-test, post-test comparison, can you see there?
Yes.
I took a pre-test, post-test comparison for all my students. Post that, I did the descriptive data analysis. So I've studied the mean, standard deviation, median, mode, all that analysis. I also did inferential analysis.
Okay.
Okay, after that, I understood that my null hypothesis was rejected because my data, the academic progress was definitely evident.
Yes. Ma'am, we have an educator, I'll just interrupt, who's asking, what do you mean by HI-STEAM? It's something.
Oh, high STEAM. This is the
STEAM.
event that we have, that is history with STEAM. So this is the event which I have, where that means all my subject, across all my subjects, I did the AI tools.
Okay, history STEAM. Okay, history with the STEAM. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Then an attendance, an entire week we took attendance, and then we measured whether there is any absenteeism or not. So you said the attendance is amazing.
Okay.
Then I again collected data through survey method. So this is quantitative data again. And I asked certain questions to my students. This was my my parents' feedback on their student presentation, on the impact of AI tools on students' learning curve. On the theme for the high STEAM, entire theme was AI in education. So how did you find this theme of teaching the whole week through AI tools? Then I took students' feedback and whether they were comfortable using AI tools. Did AI help them understanding the chapters? How effective has AI been in improving your academic performance? That is the result, and they were pretty good. For the qualitative analysis, I did interview. I interviewed 12 teachers teaching different subjects, and I asked them the 6 questions which is put across to you. So this 6 interview questions which I put across to the teachers. From the entire data, I came up with codes. From the codes, I came up with category. From the category, I came up with themes. And I came up with the respective themes. That is, the theme was academic performance, content understanding, and learning beyond textbook and learning outcomes. So what is it? Did the teachers come out with all of this? Now, the teachers felt that students were really doing well with that, but they had a concern. They felt that students lacked the expertise to evaluate authenticity and information provided by AI. They felt burdened by present curriculum assessment patterns and lack of expertise using AI. They also feared the students were finding an easy way to complete assignments and the research they produced was not in-depth. Now, once I know this, I know the pros, I know the cons. Now, after this, I've decided that in future, I would like to take up AI learning for at least a month to see that. Further, I have published a research so that if anybody else is doing this research, they can add to it, get back to me, and I could also learn from their research. So this is one way of doing things. Okay, there's another research which I did. This is one way of a new pedagogy that I did. But another way is for me to see if I have 1 second here.
Yes.
Yeah, this is another research which I'm right now working on. For example, I want to now plan for the future. So I want to understand how could futuristic teacher education by 2050, how do I prepare my teachers for the future? So I did a qualitative assessment where I interviewed 12 prominent principals, heads across the world. And I took down their feedback. Okay, so for example, I took a feedback. This is the entire theme which came up for. What are the perspectives for the education? What kind of curriculum designs they're planning? What kind of insights do they have? What will be the role of outdoor and experience learning? So many things are planned on the different themes. And now, when I want to implement in my school, I will refer to this, and I won't be just one frog in the pond. I've taken feedback from so many people.
That
So
too
for
across the
my
globe.
own planning,
That too across the globe.
yeah.
Yes.
So it works.
Yes, something, that's something very interesting. So I just have a small curiosity. When you have interacted with almost 12 heads in specific across
Yes.
the globe, what is the major thing, what you think that the Indian head should start focusing right now ASAP? Otherwise, we're going to be in a big dilemmatic situation next 30 years because, John Holt said, you cannot prepare a person for a world for which you do nothing. We are admitting our children in the year, say 2025, they're going to graduate the cohort 2037 when they graduate a high school. So as a head, you're predicting the 13 to 14 years of learning journey of our child getting admitted to a pre-primary or the nursery or the kindergarten thing. So what is the major thing that you think that the Indian heads or the Indian principals or the educators should start working on right now?
So one is, I think they all spoke about global and community engagement, because something is that we're not doing a lot of global and community engagement with our students. Okay. We are good in technology. I think after COVID, technology is something that we are using big time. Okay.
True.
Another thing is about using a variety of skill-based framework. So where they're talking about, incorporating agriculture, entrepreneurship, we need to go back and see how we can make a learning beyond the subject base. So they are becoming more thematic. We are still very much into subjects.
Yes.
So that is something that we are having to work on completely. Another thing that we need to really work on is a future-ready physical and virtual classrooms.
Yes.
So our classroom designs have not changed yet. If you're still in the traditional classroom design. So we need a metaverse classroom, something which will allow them to experience learning through VR, at the same time giving them a space to do some kind of, experiential learning, which is completely without a technology. So all that is very, very important. So I think this is something that I've really discussed a lot about it, and also inclusive education, because we're not doing adaptive, sustainable, and inclusive learning. Our topics do not talk about adaptive, sustainable, and inclusive even today. Even though we talk about it in NEP, it's not included yet.
Very, very true, and I've observed this thing when we learn the foundational of education, there are four stages of learning: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, LSRW. But what I observe as a young educator, somewhere or the other from our primary years, we start focusing on the reading and writing. The listening, speaking tangent is somewhere or the other hidden, or we are not focusing on the listening and the speaking aspect of the children. And that's also one of the major reasons why we're not adaptable to the thing. So moving on to the next thing, ma'am, there's always a quote which says that without standards, there can be no improvement. So in this world of education, wherein a lot of circulars, a lot of policies, SOPs are coming with different boards, NEP, ministry, it's like the GST circulars coming up, even the GST commissioners don't know what the new GST feature going to be. So how could you just share how schools can implement these strong SOPs around data collection or monitoring so that there's consistency and reliability, and actually they can create a small impact? There have been so many educators speaking to me that, sir, because I'm also an avid researcher, I always believe the school is the best place of research for a sample population. Why? Because you get ages 2 plus to 60 plus. But when educators come and speak to me that, sir, I have geographical boundaries, constraints, I have electricity constraints, I have financial constraints. So how do, as a school head, you have been practicing and you give a message to all the educators attending and who are going to see it post the recording, that how can they start implementing from the ground level? Maybe 1% of the implementation, but they get a motivation to start somewhere or the other.
So let me just right now try to show you first of all exactly how we do our kind of SOPs. So there could be some idea across. So just give me a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
All the educators can just pop in that question in the chat section and we will come up one by one as the time suffices.
Yeah. Just in the meantime, So just one second. So I'm
Yes.
going to share a document right now.
Yes.
So,
and we will be sharing Ms. Sanghvi's research work to each and every participant over mail as well. Whatever.
for example, if I have any simple kind of, let me not this, something else, one second. SOP performance. Okay, so I think if you notice out here, we have a performance review report. We do a review of mission and quality objectives. We do a review of key processes. Now, every single process of mine has got an SOP.
Okay.
So what is my admission? That means what is the, if I want to start admission, what is the prerequisition? Okay, what is the, before that, what is the publishing? What is the newspaper advertisement? What is my online form going to be like? During admission process, what's going to happen? And post-admission process, what's going to happen?
Okay.
So for every single key process, I have an SOP. Okay, there's all will make sure that they all are following statutory norms. There's the corrective and a preventive action. There's a review of continual improvement. There's a report of self-assessment. That means I will do a report, self-assessment of my own process. Now, each process is taken care of by a single person. So I have an admission officer. The admission officer will do a self-assessment. Did they follow that entire process? For teaching and learning, the respective coordinators will do and give it back to me. Okay. The examination, we have examination in charges. They will come back to me. So there is every single place a corrective and a preventive action, a review of continual improvement. Okay, this happened. Next year, what is your program going to be? Finally, they'll give me a PDCA cycle. Planning, do, evaluate and all that stuff. And then after that, what is going to be the change in the respective curriculum post that? So they will review the mission and statement and quality objectives. And we have respective names who are going to be across and who's going to come back to me. So again, as a SOP on this also. Now, how many parameters are there on school governance? What is the score going to be? What is the maximum score? So this is self-assessment report.
Okay.
So there's a self-assessment report, and there's also somebody else coming to take a report of me.
Okay, nice.
So suppose I'm in charge of teaching and learning, I'll do a self-assessment, and then somebody else from another department will evaluate me. And they'll ask me questions, and they'll see my documents, they'll see the evidences, and then I will be judged. So again, if you look at it, the score is 153 or 250. We have not reached anywhere.
Yes.
So this is a self-assessment score that we have. And then obviously there is data which I use. And from the data, I know where I'm going across. And I also have a third-party evaluators. We also NABET school. So I have the third-party evaluators because it's very important to understand that somebody outside also unbiased is coming to give me a report.
True.
So the management also gets a report of the whole school. We know that we are assessing ourselves, somebody else assessing us, and a third party also assessing us. So this is a regular thing of our school, and we do this self-assessment cycle twice a year.
Twice a year.
Twice a year. So you can see across twice a year, we evaluate keep on evaluating ourselves. And this data-driven process is very, very important for us. So this is how we are using data for ourselves. You can see the entire data, and this is, yeah.
We have one question here, ma'am. How do you ensure unbiasedness implemented for your internal evaluation? You know, interdepartment-wise, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So what I do is, we are a shift school. So secondary functions in the morning, primary functions the secondary in afternoon, and they check each other. So they're not in touch with each other.
Nice.
But if you have this concern, you can have a department where the primary going to secondary going to primary, because we are different shifts. So otherwise, they don't know each other. That's one way of doing it.
Yes, fair enough, ma'am. Thank you for sharing wonderful SOPs. You know, there was a TED Talk, and Sir Anthony Seldon, I've been personally following his writing works since he was the Vice Chancellor of Buckingham University. In a TED Talk, he said that AI is going to be the Cinderella of education, a silent worker which is just transforming the teaching and learning and imbibing in the nerves and the bloods of each and everyone. And adding to the icing on the sugar, it's like the gamification. So I've been hearing that you are implementing AI, gamification in your pedagogy, in your schools. So in your school's journey, how have you seen the technology, especially the AI and gamification, to enhance the student learning outcomes and engagement in the real tangible ways? So what do you suggest that how can the educator stop implementing from the ground level or from the middle or the high years, so that slowly the concept of gamification comes into real experiential terms at the K-12 tangent? Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. So first of all, before you move ahead, I want to tell you, Harshit, many people confuse game playing with
Yes.
gamification.
Yes.
So gamification is also not just playing of games, it is also a scoring, it's also a leadership board. So it's all of that. So you need to understand what is gamification, and it's not just technology games, it's also physical. So gamification can be in any single form. So what I started in basic classes, in my lower classes, we all have played Monopoly. So we created Monopoly boards, but we're using now cities. You know, certain cities that you talk about, you want them to learn geography, or when you want to learn them about grammar, then you have certain, again, the cards will relate to grammar, so grammar board. So I have tried to rework the Monopoly board with this way. And again, you're playing, then there's a leadership board, there's a teamwork, there's which team will play what. So I have tried to basically create teams in my school. Every time I've tried to create a team, and within the team, I've given roles to the students. For example, you are the editor, you are the one who's going to present it, you're going to do the scoring, you're going to be the research person, you're going to be the designer. So when you give them roles, it is very easy to evaluate them, because now nobody can shirk their work. Even if one person falls, not done the work, the project is not going to come into place. So giving roles within a group is very important. Creating the roles, creating, first of all, another teacher's work here is very important, because she's going to play a very huge role. She has to create a lesson plan telling us exactly what is the students going to be doing, how is she planning to assess the students, what is the rubric for assessment, and then what is going to be her role in that entire thing. Because once the students do the gamification that they're playing, she's a facilitator. Yes. And she has to be recording the students' observations and everything. Also, in gamification, when they're playing against each other, it can become a little, a little vengeful between students, because there's one group against the other students. So how are we going to make sure that there's not that kind of, radical competitiveness? It's a healthy competition. So that is something that you need to also work on. So how do you convert that lesson into a gamification thing is also something that the teacher needs to understand. Not every topic is going to be a gamification or something, and you don't need to. You need to use gamification as when will it work best for you. And then even online tools you have, yes, you can bring in online tools, but I would prefer that you do it with gamification in the secondary. Primary, I would rather that you actually go down, make them play. That's so important. So I think this is how the elements of gamification, and we've 1 year, the entire teaching and learning, what we did is that 1 entire month was only taught through gamification. Okay. And again, we did a pre-test, again, we did a post-test, and then we evaluated it, and we called the parents to see it, and we also had the parents be a part of the gamification team.
That's nice.
And the learning was amazing. My parents told me, please do it every year. So now, from that particular year, we did this gamification of the year 22. Okay. And from that particular year, we have ensured that where it lends itself, we have brought in gamification. That's nice. So even today, when I did my AI tools, I did bring in a lot of gamification tools also out there.
Okay. So this is not that tough in your opinion to implement or start implementing from a non-implemented school till date. Even the mediocre level schools, somewhere or the other, as per your opinion, can start to it, because people look at this technical heavy words in such a complex way that, my God, it's something which has come from other planet, not from Earth. And how do we use it? We need lakhs of money to build such labs, this and that. So in your opinion, even at a zero investment, you can start implementing and making your parents, each stakeholder of the institute, involved to it.
Exactly. I don't think anything requires money, because we are on a school. No management is going to come and say, oh, we have money and please take the money and we please create. No one's going to do that. But you have to see how to use your resources constructively, and how to use the support of your parents also constructively. So some places where we wanted, say, flex stuff for come out. We got the students to work in a group, and then we had the parents, create that for us with a minimal account. But you need to work smart here and see how you're going to use your stakeholders very well.
True, very, very, very well said. When you're speaking of, the paid monopoly or the monopoly board from the primary thing, one such activity I always say to educators to start even trying the six thinking hat concepts in the class
Yes.
of Dr. Edward de Nombos. Many of the heads, they don't know this technique. When they use six different color hats, to teach, say, Shakespearean play or any other discipline you are teaching in a class. And when you use this, you divide the class basically into six groups of six different color hats, symbolizes six different things, and you teach commerce, you teach maths, you teach English, you teach science, you teach whichever discipline. So this is a good takeaway for the educators. We will give the key takeaway pointers at the end of the session so the educators can know these things. Next month is on the teacher training. Without proper training of our faculties, of our staff, we believe that the best mantra for a professional is to stay updated. Without updation, nothing goes on. So, what kind of training and capacity building do teachers and staff under your leadership truly harness technology and data courses? And how do you inspire them to embrace it? I'm sure you must also receive some replications from the senior staff, so on and so forth, when it comes to mandatory CPDs, mandatory updations. How do you ensure that each of your member is updated till the latest pedagogy? And how to ensure uniformity in the delivery of the pedagogy across classrooms, whether it's a most zealable teacher or whether it's a not zealing teacher? How do you ensure that this training is also implemented at a uniformed way across the different sections of the same classrooms, ma'am?
So therefore, there also we work across the training calendars decided way in advance, because based on this, what I do is we observe teachers' lessons and we make an
Okay.
observation. There also we make a note of where teacher has which strength,
Mhm.
and this where the strength and where what kind of training the teacher requires.
Okay.
That recording is also done. It's done by my heads. It's done by my vice principal. It's done by me also. We come together and we discuss. And then we work out how many teachers require which training. So there again, data comes in a huge way.
Mhm.
So we have forms and we again number it as per the, so it's easier to calculate it.
True.
One is this, two is this, three
True.
stands for,
Mm.
very good. One is like lax,
Mm.
what do you call, mastery. Two
Mhm.
is okay, fair, third. So that way marking and then evaluating also helps us out. And when it comes to teacher training, I make sure that first of all, anything new thing I want to bring in the school, I first get trained myself for it. In a sense, I sort out, ask people, experts, I go for training myself. And then I want to talk to my teachers about it. Because if I am not sure of it, I have no right to ask you to get sure about it.
True.
Okay, so it has to begin from the leader.
Mhm.
So the core team and myself, we make sure that we really get trained for this. For example, I wanted to start an AI. I actually had no idea of AI. So we connected with other people, heads, to tell me how to go about learning AI. We called in experts to teach us, and then I joined a free courses, and then I learned about AI. After I learned AI, then I took a session of myself with the teachers. Then after that, we still did peer teaching with each other, hand holding with each other.
True.
And then we did with the students, and then students obviously were better than us.
Mm.
So they taught us a lot of things.
Mm.
And so that is how training happens. So when
True.
it comes to technology, they're better than us. When it comes to any other kind of pedagogy, you have to seek out community help.
Mm.
And that's where the network of principals, network of teachers comes in useful.
Mm.
There also you use data, which study it, find out from the LinkedIn or from any social media, which principal or which teacher did which training and which was appreciated. And then connect with that person and say, do this training for us. So that is what we have called people across. And we ask people to say, can you do this training for us? And if we are not, if the charges are very steep, we've asked them to do online training for us, which is much more reasonable.
True. True.
So again, as I said, you have to understand budgeting also is very important, because that's also where data comes in big time. What is your budget for training and how much can you invest? And again, where we feel that any of the vendors, for example, when you have a book, You have so many publishing houses. Wherever we get an opportunity to send people across a training, we send. We
Nice.
don't miss out any opportunities.
True.
Apart from the council that is mandatory, but the other trainings also. And also when different school leaders conduct training, we send our people. And then any person may be paid for. Like recently in December, we sent for a teacher for a wonderful 3-day paid learning because she's very, very enthusiastic. Then afterwards, she came back and then she had to cascade the whole training to the entire rest of the teachers. Post the training again, we take a test of the teachers to know whether the teacher was paying attention or not.
Yes.
That is also very important. So we use MS Teams, we use MS Quiz very much. Because we all have an Outlook ID. So MS Quiz has worked very well. You don't need to correct. We put marks and we put a lot of questions. And we want to know whether the teachers have learned it. And then at the end, we have a scoreboard. And then from the scoreboard, we know whether teachers have really understood anything from those three. And if not, we have connected personally with the teachers and informed them, this is your score. And please, could you explain to us why you have such a poor score?
True.
So that has also worked, again, using data.
Yeah, that's something, there are many such tools, say MS Quizzes, people know about MS Classrooms, MS Teams, but at the end of the day, it's up to us that how do we channelize and use this app. Just to add on something, ma'am, is there any particular thing, what do you feel that the training of which is lacking in most of the teachers and most of the heads are unintentionally skipping this aspect of the teacher training? Is there any particular thing what you as a researcher feel that my teachers, be it a fresher, be it the most experienced teacher till date, is something lacking in our curriculum or the B.Ed pedagogy or the professional development, something like that?
So Harshit, I feel every teacher should be conducting action research in the class.
Yes.
For example, many of my teachers come back and say, bullying is a concern, these students don't listen to me, there's discipline issue. Why don't you conduct a research in your class, which is just maybe busy, could be 2 hours where you ask questions to your students and come back and evaluate it. Find out what is going wrong, where is it going wrong, which teacher, also find out as a class teacher, which teachers are they listening to, which teachers are they not listening to, and what is the teacher that they're listening to, that skill that teacher has versus the skill of the teacher lacking where they're not listening to. And then a comparison also of this will give you an insight as to why the teacher has able to handle the classroom management.
Correct.
So it's so important, but they don't do it, and nowhere is a B.Ed, emphasizing on this action research in our classrooms, because all solutions come from your research.
True.
And you don't do it, and then you do superficial. Okay, there's a problem of discipline. Let us do some value education class and do a superficial, putting a balm over some wound where it is not fitting.
Yes.
You've not gone to the core. You've just not gone to the core.
True. Yes,
and because you've not gone to the core, this problem persists year after year after year. So this is something I've tried to tell my teachers umpteen times. Please do that. Second, I think somewhere we're missing out is inclusive education. Every class we have concerns, but what are we doing for those children? So we have a WARP teaching model. We have a mandatory students to be taken across as in a part of a school diary. The parents know what reading style it is. Once the teachers know across, they have to make the worksheets as per the majority of the, all the 4 parts to be catered to. They create blueprints for worksheets, whether they've catered to all the learning styles.
Yes.
And if they have to show me in that worksheet whether they've catered to all the learning styles. So that is one way that we are trying to do differentiated learning, but we still are not reaching everyone. And let me tell you, we still have a long way to go.
True, very true. When you mention of differentiated learning, when we were discussing over the phone call, I have hardly seen few heads. That too, I was so impressed to see having differentiated question papers across different standards of the grades. Because when you speak to those heads, they said that we follow the curriculum pattern for the board examinations. Up to 8, I am the Hitler of my school to design my own papers to do it. Recently, I'll just say one thing. I just have a small question for all the attendees here. How many of our children, when they get up in the morning, genuinely tell that mom or dad, please put my tie knot nicely. I have to go to school today to give exam. When they're seeing the question paper in hand, is there a smile on our children's face? It's always all stress, anxiety, and the toppers are the ones who knows the answer. They're more or less happy or they're neutral that they will score 90 plus. But where is that fun or learning? As educators, we need to introspect. So I am Raipur in their final semester examinations for financial accounting paper. I'll share that PDF in the key takeaway of the mails. Can you imagine the official question paper was completely based on a single page of Economic Times newspaper? But it was not a serious questions. Entire accounts paper was based on a cuisine menu, cucumber salad, North Indian breads, variety of baskets, this and that, covering all aspects of balance sheet, cash flow statement, PL, this, that. And when even the pre-testing and post-testing, when the marks of the students were compared, of course, they're IM children, anyhow, they score well, productivity and happiness of the children's increased in such way. So what I also feel that we as educators should also start introspecting, where's that fun for learning? And one more to add on to action research and inclusive education, what Ms. Sanghvi said, I also feel at a personal as a young educator, intuition management is something which is lacking to make our teachers trained on how do they manage their intuition. Of course, it's a personal aspect, but personal aspect hampers a professional aspect a lot. And I have not seen any business school in the world who has intuition management as a paper to coming up. So one more area what we feel that we should of course speak upon, and how do we manage our intuition, not just for children, but for the teachers as well. So thank you, Ms. Sangvi. Coming to the final question is that there's a big difference between being data rich and being data intelligent. Of course, when so many things you're coming up at an innovative pace at your institution you have been working with, what are the major challenges you have faced? And what are the major challenges you are warning the educators that they will face when they start implementing, but they should not give up like you haven't? So, a small key takeaway on this aspect.
So, obviously, mindset changes. When I started this, everybody was like, the school has been running for years. There was no such thing done across. Why do you want to do it? There's no such anything. It's the same format. So everybody's going to resist it because data gives you so many insights. Nobody wants to own up to it, and it'll be a blame game, right? So you will have a lot of negativity coming across from every single place, because at the end, if anything goes wrong also, the management has a clear picture of where it's gone wrong. The staff also comes to know that it gets highlighted which teachers done well, which teachers not done well. So you need to let them know that this data will not be used against them. This data is used for the school, and the way you project it to the management also is very important, so that no teacher is affected. See, every teacher or every person has a ups and downs, and every time it cannot be consistent. So if there's somebody is going down, you need to take the time to find and give support, not to take out the shortcomings and make it in front of the whole staff room and make it a big thing. So how are you going to project your data is very important. Whom are you projecting your data to? And when to do data also is very important. You can't do it in a minute the school reopens. No. Or immediately. If you've started something, you need to do it at least 3-4 months down the line, and then work on it. So this very when, how, and what are you going to project? That's very important.
Very true. Just the final concluding, question, a very personal question to your journey of your life. Of course, when you were doing your masters, you have done your B.Ed, you have done your classroom demonstration, holding the chalk and the board for the first time. You're given your demo, in the classroom. What transition in the education have you seen 2 decades back? You are seeing at the moment, and the projection, what you're researching for 2050. So what do you think that has genuinely changed the complete tangent of the education world altogether? So, as an educational scientist, how have you seen? What are you seeing? And how, as a teacher from the core of a heart, you see that the education has changed in totality and is changing at a breakneck speed. Change is also changing at a breakneck speed. So, by 2050. So, your final remarks on it, ma'am.
So I'll tell you, because I've been teaching since 2001 and I still teach today. Earlier, I was a king in my class. queen in my class because everybody was listening to me for knowledge. So knowledge was what I was giving, and they were that time internet wasn't a rage or something of that sort. People did not have that much access, so they heard me out, and Google was not that much. Today, I knowledge my students know more than me. They've already come with that knowledge. What they actually want me to do is to clarify the concepts with them and to discuss how those concepts are used in real life. So more of experimentation, exploration is what I do in my subject, physics, is what they want me to do, and how I can take it ahead and show them the path for their future. So my role as a teacher, I'm still teaching them subjects, but their input is much more because they're already having that knowledge with them. They're more traveling now because I've seen the students also have traveled a lot. So they come with a lot of rich experiences. So this now it's more of a give and take, not just one way. It is more of a give and take. And I think that is something beautiful right now, which I really enjoy with my students.
Very true. It's like learning together, you know, it's like the
Yeah.
two wheels of the motorcycle where the teacher and the learner is going together. And as the topic says, that we have to use data and we as humans need to use AI. It's not the AI using humans. At the end of the day, we must not forget that it's a human intelligence which has created artificial intelligence. It's never the vice versa. So people being insecure should always be motivated that human intelligence is the origin of artificial intelligence, and let us not create intellectual monsters in today's time. So thank you very much, Ms. Sanghvi, for having us share your wisdom, your research, and to all the attendees coming from across the country attending the series. A small key takeaway from my article, a small para I'll just quote, which I always say to all the educators, that do keep on pushing the boundaries of quality and excellence in education by making it a truly reflexive, inclusive, dialogic, and engaged space so that the land of the mind, the intellectual curiosity must stay alive. So thank you, educators, for joining us. Thank you, Ms. Sanghvi, for joining the show and sharing the knowledge with all of us. Thank you
Thank you
very
so
much.
much, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. We will pass on the certificates to each and every one in due course of time to all the educators who have attended it. Thank you very much.